Here's my story in short. I went to an all-girls local school in Hong Kong, and I picked up a squash racket for the very first time when I was 6 years old and haven't stopped playing since. A couple years later, I realized that I was good at this sport, so I used that as leverage to get myself into a good college. And now I play Division I college squash in the US. And I'm sure you're all here for that particular story, a success story of how a young girl was able to get into college using squash. But I am here to share something more than that. I'm here to share with you my relationship with the sport, the highs and lows of being a student athlete, and how I got to exactly where I am today. From the moment I was born, my parents have always been one step ahead. I have a US passport because I was born in the US. I spoke English more fluently than Chinese even before kindergarten started. My dad would read to me every single night, a tradition that continued all the way till I left for college. And the most vivid memory I have as a kid was when my mom printed out this black and white headshot of my primary school headmistress, saying that this was going to be my interviewer and that I had to look her in the eyes whenever I answered her questions. She would then hide behind the photo and we would practice interview skills together. I started playing tennis at 4, and I switched to squash at 6. Not only because my parents no longer had to wait for me under the scorching heat, but also because it's a sport that, if I'm good at, can get me into college easier than if I had played tennis. All the way up till I was 13 years old, my parents leveraged their skills, abilities, and their experiences to put me in a position where I had everything I needed in life to succeed. But thinking about getting into college with squash at 13 years old both ruined me and benefited me at the same time. It benefited me because 6 years later, I am exactly where I've always dreamt of being. But it ruined me because what was supposed to be passion for me wasn't. I spent more than 10 years on something that I didn't love. And that's what adults should be feeling at work, not a little girl. I wasn't making any money. As I grew older, that's when I started to really struggle. Squash is such a small sport, especially in Hong Kong. And to give you a little context, by the time I was 18, there were only 8 players in the girls under 19 category. I was literally guaranteed top 8 every single time I played a Hong Kong tournament. And these were the same people that I competed with, went to school with, and trained with. Every hour of every day, I was stuck, competing with the people around me. I invite you to imagine a squash court. And if you don't know what that looks like, just imagine a tennis court with walls enclosing it. And imagine yourself in it, trapped in it, hitting against the wall by yourself. Before getting into college, playing squash felt exactly like that. It felt lonely. It felt suffocating, like there was nowhere to breathe. At my lowest, I felt like my life wasn't fair. It wasn't fair for a 14-year-old to be thinking about college. It wasn't fair that I had to spend every single school holiday playing squash instead of travel like my friends did. And it definitely wasn't fair for a 14-year-old to be struggling with depression and anxiety over a sport that half the world doesn't even know about. But I was also good at grinding it out. I knew deep down that maybe, just maybe, if I tried hard enough, I would get into that dream college. Just like if I was 2 love down from a squash match, I'm still constantly trying to think of ways to come back and win it. And no matter how hard it was for me to get out of bed every morning and go to practice, I always showed up. And resilience isn't something that only student athletes have. Some of you here in this room are musicians who choose to pick up that violin after a long day of school, even though that's the last thing you want to do. Some of you here in this room are what we call academic weapons, which I can't relate to. You guys sacrifice spending quality time with family and friends to be studying in the library. And some of you here are moms who choose not to completely give up on your career even after having kids. And so I stayed resilient. I dug deep and just fought my way through it all. I made myself believe that nothing good in life comes easy. And when I got the news that I got into college on September 6th of 2023, I felt a huge weight lifted off my shoulders, and I felt like I could finally breathe. For the first time in my entire life, I had no goal. I had no reason to pick up that squash racket again. Why would I, when I spent my entire life hating it so much? And naturally, my friends just kind of assumed that once college started, I would slowly fade the sport away from my life. And they were right, until they weren't. And let me tell you why. In college squash, only the top 9 players on the team got to play. The rest would sit on the sidelines, help coach, and help ref their teammates. During my first semester at Penn, I was playing at number 10, and I loved it. I loved being backup, which meant that I still got to travel with the team, and I still got to compete when one of my teammates were either injured or just wanted to take a break. I was relieved that there was no pressure on me to play well, but I was still able to somewhat contribute. But 3 or 4 months into the season, I wanted more. I saw how motivated my teammates were. They would train until they physically couldn't push any harder and do extra bike sessions at the gym. They will chase for every single ball like there's no tomorrow, and they will jump and yell on court after winning. I wanted to be like them. I admired them. And I even envied them because they were able to find their passion before I was able to find mine. They wanted to win, and they wanted to be better for the team. And squash, for the first time in my entire life, was treated like a team sport, not an individual one. And slowly, I saw my confidence skyrocket as a squash player, and I saw myself improving. The difference between training hard in college and at Penn, the difference between training hard in Hong Kong and in college was my environment, the people around me. As I started to become more involved with the team, I started to truly see what an amazing team I am a part of. My teammates are some of the sweetest people I have ever met. And once they step on court, they're also the fiercest people I have ever met. They will chase for every single ball like there's no tomorrow, even if they were injured. And when they're not being athletes, they're being students. And to help paint the picture a little, here's a rundown of a day in my week. Waking up at 7 for that 8 a.m. gym session, shower, 10:15 class, 12 p.m. class, a 15-minute lunch, 1:45 p.m. class, change, 3 p.m. squash, shower, dinner, study, and sleep. Not to mention, depending on who you are, applying for summer internships, networking, looking for research opportunities, traveling for squash tournaments, recovering from an injury, dating if you're lucky like me, family problems, clubs, meetings, spending time with friends. All this just to be able to type out student athlete of the Wharton School of the University of Pennsylvania on my LinkedIn profile. I'm kidding. I have no contract, no scholarship that says that I have to play all 4 years at Penn. No one is forcing me to pick up that racket and go to practice every day. And no one is forcing me to be a student athlete. But I continue to do so. I wake up at 7 for those gym sessions and show up for practice every single day because I want to, no longer because I was forced to. When I went back to Hong Kong for Christmas break and told my friends that I've enjoyed being a part of the team and I enjoy playing squash, they didn't believe me. And I don't blame them because I didn't think that I would enjoy it myself. I would have never thought that I would be able to find passion for this sport. But I did. Because when the people around me believed in me, think I'm a kick-ass athlete, and count on me for bringing it home for the team, I found a sense of purpose and a sense of belonging, something that I've never felt in Hong Kong before. Now, most of you here are not squash players. Some of you might even have to look up what squash is before coming to tonight's talk. But all of you here are striving for something. All of you here have goals. And your goal could be similar to what mine was, to get into that good college. And you would have your own way of getting into that good college. For me, it was squash. For you, it could be swimming, orchestra, debate. There are many, many ways to get to that same one final destination, which is why I'm not here to give you this one-size-fits-all plan that can get you straight into an Ivy League. I am here because I want to share a little something with you guys. I am here because there are things that I wish I could have told my younger self. And I am here because I sympathize with those who relate to my younger self. For those of you here that are 16, 17-year-olds, worried about public exams, worried about your competition, the people around you who want to get into those same schools as you, I know the feeling of feeling like nothing you do is ever going to be good enough. I lived through it, and I continue to struggle with it as I surround myself with incredibly smart and talented people in college. But if your path is ever so similar to mine, please do not let that single path of getting into college overshadow your entire life. You do not have to be the best to be successful. And before you roll your eyes, let me give you a little fun fact. I have never won a squash tournament in my entire life. I have gotten into countless finals, but I never had the privilege of holding up the biggest trophy in the room. I was always second best, I was always third best, and I was never the best. And you don't have to be the best either. It is far more important for us to be improving, to learn how to be resilient, and to learn how to fight. People admire growth and hard work just as much as they admire winners. For those of you here that know someone with that tunnel vision of striving for their goals, please force them to skip a day or two of practice. Continue to encourage them, stand by them, and help them make their lives slightly easier. I had this best friend throughout middle school who would remember my schedule by heart and would buy me lunch on days that I had practice without me asking. She is half the reason why I survived middle school. To those here that are parents, adults, coaches, instead of constantly nagging us to train hard and get into college, please take a step back and let us breathe. I've put so much pressure on myself growing up that the last thing I needed was more from my parents. As hard as it sounds, give us days off. Stay away from our squash matches and swimming meets if it's obvious that it's something that we prefer. Sometimes we just play better without the added external pressure. It's nothing personal. Lastly, and most importantly, please do not base our self-worth off our music, sports, and academic achievements. It's okay for us to be imperfect, and not everything in life is about being the best. Prioritize our happiness, our mental health. Communicate with us instead of assuming. Let us tell you what is important to us and what is helpful to us and what is not. Whoever you are, as you continue to claw your way up to your own definition of success, I hope you get to pause and truly appreciate your surroundings once in a while. It is a privilege to be good at something, to have dreams, and to have goals. If someone were to ask me today whether or not it was all worth it, I would say yes in a heartbeat. And I hope that roughly 5 years later, you all will get a chance to say the same too. Thank you.